This is Eric, and I'm here with my good friend Denali.
Hi.
Hi. I met Denali, 3 months ago? What did we decide? About 3?
October. Then
October of 2013.
December. 2.5, but who's counting?
And I discovered quickly that Denali is an extremely interesting person who has been a lot of places and has a lot of stories to tell from a very short time on this planet. She's only been around for 23 years.
Soon to be 24.
Soon to be 24. She's managed to make it to 25 countries in that time. You think you can rattle off the list?
Oh, God, okay. America, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica. Then the gap year was Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Nepal, India, Indonesia, Australia. Then we came home. Then we went to Italy. And... oh, wait. England, France, Germany, the Czech Republic. But that was only for like one night. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It was an epic night. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Russia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia.
I wasn't counting. Was that all of
them? Yeah.
Okay. I want to start at the beginning, but I want to start first at the very beginning, I guess. Your name, Denali. I know of a vehicle with that name.
And there's a North Face clothing line, and there's a mammoth in Gumby who makes very rare appearances. Do you know the show Gumby? Like Gumby
oh, yeah.
and
The
Pokey?
claymation? Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you know that show.
There's ice cream.
Uh-huh.
Denali Moose Tracks. There's trailers named Denali.
But what are you? Are you named after the ice cream?
Yeah, how did you know? No, I'm named after the mountain in Alaska that when I was growing up, I thought it was named after me.
Of course.
And my parents were hippies, wanted to name me after a mountain. So they were like, what about Shasta? What about... and they had this long list of names, but my mom said they all sounded like dog names. So, which is ironic because now I've met a few dogs named Denali, but that's beside the point.
That sounds like a good golden retriever name.
They're normally like big huskies
or
big, survivor mountain dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But it means the great one or the high one.
Oh.
I generally don't
That's
tell
humbling.
people that it means the high one because then there's a lot of jokes made. Yeah, but it's a national park as well. It's Denali National Park. It's one of the most polluted national parks because no one
what a great namesake.
Packs out their waste. Yeah. I went when I was 6 to Alaska, and the entire time that we were there, we kept on hoping that we were going to see the mountain, but all the clouds were covering it, and we were, trying to see it. This is not going to come through via audio. We were, looking here.
That's a good pod.
we were looking here thinking that we were going to see the top of the mountain, and we never did. And then finally, the last day, the clouds cleared, and the top of the peak was you get puppy neck looking at it because it's so high. It was good.
Do you have a soul connection with the mountain?
I'm not really sure. Maybe. I have this dream that when I die, my ashes will be scattered on the top of the mountain, meaning that the people that really love me have to climb Mount Denali.
So you're basically giving them a chore. You better find people that really love you.
Yeah. Or I just have to have really fit mountaineering friends when I die.
Or somebody who can pilot a helicopter.
Yeah, or that. It's all about who you know.
Would you feel cheated if somebody just took a helicopter to the top and threw your coffee can of ashes out?
I think I'd just be well...
I mean, it's...
Coffee can. No, ashes come in very packaged. It looks like a ream of paper these days.
Really?
Yeah, my grandpa's funeral, they had this very nice velvet bag. I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
this is very off track. I don't know
No,
if
no.
this okay.
Continue.
They had this really nice like emerald velvet bag, and everyone was like, "Grandpa's in this bag." And then when we buried him, we took him out of the bag, and it was just this little rectangle of ashes tied up like a ream of paper, and we put that in the ground, which was weird also because you had to have this concrete block around it.
Uh-huh.
What is that about? Ridiculous. That's so wasteful.
Why? Was that law?
Yeah.
See, we scattered my stepdad, and then we also buried the ashes. We didn't put it in a concrete. Was that on public land, like at a cemetery?
Yeah.
Okay, see, we did this on private land.
Oh, yeah. If we had done it...
I wonder how much of that, though, is the cemetery selling you more things.
Oh, totally to business. I mean, I don't know how much it is and how much is law, but anyway.
Because they're afraid that your ashes might seep out into the rest of the soil.
But aren't ashes sterile?
Yes, absolutely. I'm being sarcastic.
Oh.
No, I think it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ashes are actually good for some plants.
Right. I don't know.
So where are you from, originally?
San Anselmo, California.
San Anselmo, California. Where's that?
It's 20 minutes north of San Francisco. It's in Marin County, Bay Area.
And who is from there aside from you?
Mama Sin and Papa Don and Yoshi.
And George Lucas?
I knew that was what you were getting at. And George Lucas. Yeah. Or I don't know if he's from there, but he lives there.
Is that where the ranch is?
It's not in San Anselmo, but it's super close by. My best friend Gina's dad works for Lucasfilm.
So I want to get us up to the point where you start world traveling. What is the first time you left the country? How old were you?
Well, it doesn't really count, but I went up to Canada from Washington for a day when I was like 11 or 12. But I don't really consider that much of anything too exciting.
Just cross the border to be able to say you did?
Yeah, pretty much. And then when I was in high school, we had this really great group of friends that went down to Mexico to build houses for a week at a time, which you did the same thing.
I did the same thing, a Habitat for Humanity.
Right. We did it with this...
I think that's who it was through. I don't remember, but yes, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
It was through a church, regardless.
Yeah, we didn't do anything religious. It was a religious organization, but our group we just collected 25 of our best friends and went down and did it, which was
that sounds fun.
Yeah, so that was the first time that I kind of got out of the bubble.
Do you remember where in Mexico you went?
We went to Tijuana and Tecate. And yeah, we just stayed on tents on this old vineyard. And you just fall in love with the families. Like I didn't take Spanish in high school. I took Japanese, but so like there was a language barrier for me, but I brought my guitar, and like that was able to give me a connection to this family that we were building a house for. And like the kids would gather around, and like I'd hold down chords and I'd let them strum, or you know, we'd sing songs for them and I'd change a line or two to be in Spanish. And I loved it, so I went back and did that 3 years. That's where this ring is from, that I wear every day.
Nice. I'm looking at a turquoise and silver ring.
This is so funny.
Did that sound like turquoise? So what about the first time let's see, and then you started really traveling in college or after college?
No, so then when I was in my senior year of high school, one of my personal idols was my English teacher, Miss Carlson, and she introduced the idea of a gap year to me, which I'd never even considered or really even thought of. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And I wanted to do it through a few different programs, but they were all so expensive, and I couldn't justify it. And I was like, I can do this on my own. Like, I can design my own itinerary and, you know, cut out the middleman and just do this for myself. And so I proposed that to my parents. I'm like, I'm going to go by myself around the world a little bit. What do you guys think? Instead of going to college immediately. And they were kind of skeptical, but they were like, you're going to be great. That sounds amazing. And then something hit and they were like, wait a second. You really shouldn't go on your own. Because all I'd done was travel to Mexico in like a very organized group of people. And so they convinced my college. They convinced my brother, Yoshi, to take a year off of college and travel with me. So that was my plan after high school. But before I went and did that, my best friend Gina and I went to Costa Rica for 5 weeks, and we woofed. Which is Worldwide Organic Organization of Farmers.
Do tell.
There's woofing everywhere. Like, there's woofing in the States. There's woofing in Israel. There's pretty much any country that there's humans. There are... Oh, I wonder if there's one in Antarctica.
Let me explain a couple things that might... I mean, I know this, but for the benefit of the podcast, your brother's name is Yoshi, and you took Japanese in high school because you are half Japanese.
Yes.
Yes, and you look half Japanese.
No, I think I look culturally ambiguous.
You do.
Racially unidentifiable on first
it's definitely
meeting.
Asian. You're definitely half Asian, but which Asian it is up in the air.
Yeah, I know, but you're really good at identifying.
I am.
Like when Amanda was here and you just called her out, she was blown away because no one had ever done that to her before.
On being native South American?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody just assumed she was Mexican?
Yeah.
So, Costa Rica woofing. I want to know what this is.
So we... God, it's just so random and completely arbitrary, but we decided that we were going to go on a trip together, and we kind of randomly chose Costa Rica. And there's a huge list of farms that you can choose from, and it's just a work exchange. So we found this guy named Noe, and he's actually this quirky old man who used to live in Santa Cruz, and now he's an expat living in Costa Rica. And it was super misleading because his website had a picture of him with his wife and a lot of information that ended up being completely inaccurate.
Really?
And his wife doesn't exist. Like, she went missing.
Oh.
And he just kind of failed to mention this. So we think like, oh, we're going to go down and be with this couple. But that was not the way it went. But we had like many phone conversations and email exchanges and Skype.
Did he tell you over the phone and email, did he paint this picture that was obviously false?
Yeah, I think...
I mean, it seems to me like he's trying to get young girls to come live on his farm.
Oh my God, he hit on us like crazy. Like 18-year-old us. Oh God, it was bad.
How old is this guy? Noe?
No way.
No way.
No way.
How old is he?
When you ask him that, he would say 62 and ready for you.
Now, do you think his wife actually went missing, or do you think she ever existed? Or do you think he just posed with someone?
I think she definitely existed at one point.
Did he bury her under the soil somewhere?
Oh my God.
Did he seem like the kind of guy that was capable of creepy things?
Yeah, but he's not too strong, so I don't know if he could have done that on his own. But,
Did he ever make any inappropriate advances toward you guys? I mean, aside from just flirting?
a lot of them were just really uncomfortable, playful, sexual comments. But it was I never felt threatened or truly violated. There were just a lot of moments where Gina and I would make eye contact and be like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So what were you doing on this farm?
We were... You're very good at this whole interview thing, by the way. We were... In the greenhouse, we would plant squash seeds and tend to them. He had chickens down at the bottom of this hill, which was really sad. I think some animal came in the night and killed one of them and only brought half its body out of the fencing. So we went down in the morning to take care of the chickens, and there was just half of a chicken body hanging out of the fence. We did yoga with him. It was an unbelievable house where there's 3 stories, but there's only 3 walls.
Yeah.
So the outside wall that faces the mountains of lush green rainforest was open.
Completely
open.
And I assume the weather in Costa Rica is such that you can just have a house completely open like that?
Yeah, I mean, it rained a lot, so he would have this big awning, but it was completely open. And
Were bugs a problem?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, was it just the 2 of you and him on the farm?
No. We showed up, and there were a few other people woofing who were just the most wonderful people. We stayed in contact for a few years, but now we've lost touch. And we would go on weekend trips together. We really didn't have very many responsibilities on the farm.
Were you near a city or a village or anything?
No. We were kind of in the middle of nowhere. Gina, we were so excited to get a drink for the first time. Somewhat legally. And we had to walk like 2 miles to go find a little bar that we got our beer and then walked home in the rain, taking selfies of ourselves with beers because we were so excited.
So you did have electricity out there?
Oh, yeah.
Was it generated, or did he have lines coming into the farm?
I don't remember. No, they were telephone lines.
So he had some modern conveniences.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And we had a fridge, but he had this goat stew that he would heat up, and we'd have some, and then he'd just keep it in the pot and on the stove, and he'd do the same thing the next day. And I was like, oh, this is kind of, interesting. But then he did that for like 2 weeks.
Just every time he'd heat it up, it would sterilize it, I guess?
Yeah, I wasn't too into that. But it was really nice to be in a place where, like, everything was just minimal.
Uh-huh.
And, like, the amount of water that we used to wash dishes was like you just fill up a bucket and that's the dish water for the next, like, 2 days,
Was that the first time? Because, I mean, again, I know you prior to this podcast, and you seem to be drawn toward a simplistic style of living like that. Was that your first exposure to that type of living?
No. Well, I guess I'd never taken it on as my living style, like, for longer than, like, a camping trip or a backpacking trip. So it was really nice to have that. Yeah.
So, when did you come back from Costa Rica? How long were you there?
I was there 5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And then came back in July. And Gina went to college at University of Oregon. Yoshi and I flew to Japan. And then we ended up loving it so much. Like, both of us hadn't really, really traveled at all, so we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just making it up as we went along.
Did you guys, how much money had you saved up to do this whole world traveling thing?
Oh, thousands.
Really?
Yeah, I babysat. I had jobs. Like, I worked my buns off. I didn't know what I was saving up for, though.
Uh-huh.
And I never really bought anything big my whole life up to that point.
So
and
you'd banked thousands of dollars.
Yeah, but I mean, it also helped that I got high school graduation money that I put all towards this trip. And my grandpa, when we were each born, he bought each of the grandkids, he has 5 grandkids, stocks, and then cashed them in when we graduated from high school to give us college money. So I used that college money to go travel the world. Yeah, it was a pretty expensive trip, but it was a lot cheaper than doing it with a program.
Right.
That wanted like $25,000, $30,000.
Right, because they've got overhead, they've got people to pay.
Right.
So you and Yoshi, just the two of you.
Yeah.
In Japan. What'd you do in Japan? Where'd you
go? Well, we had family that we didn't really
Your mom's family.
know about.
The Japanese
Yeah.
family. Okay.
Yeah. They're like distant cousins that we hadn't really had any communication with, and they speak only Japanese.
Uh-huh.
So my great aunt, Auntie Sachi, sent them a letter and sent them a picture of me and Yoshi saying, "You have family members that are going to come to Japan. Can they stay with you? Please take good care of them. I love them." And they wrote back and were like, "Yes, of course. That sounds wonderful." And since they'd never met us, they came to the train station to pick us up, holding our picture, trying to match us with the faces coming out of the train. But they found us. We stuck out like sore thumbs. We each had a backpack, like a huge backpack. And I had my guitar, your guitar, and...
That you gave to me.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah. For your birthday. And there was just a lot that kind of drew some attention to us, so I bet it wasn't too hard to find us. But yeah, we stayed in Tokyo with one of my mom's best friends, and did a bit of karaoke. Oh God, it's so funny how people seem really shy and reserved, and then once you get them in a room with karaoke, they're little rock stars. It was so great to see a bunch of Japanese people transform.
So what's your most memorable moment in Japan?
Ooh.
I'm going to make this a recurring question for each of our countries.
In this city called Nara, there's this temple where there's a bunch of deer outside where you buy... It's very touristy, but it's very memorable. You can buy like little treats to feed them, and I was like, "This sounds awesome, let's do this." And so I go and get my little bag of treats, and they just swarm me, and I'm standing there like crying, just trying to throw out all these treats, and Yoshi's just laughing, dying, watching me because I'm having a panic attack in the middle of a feeding frenzy of deer at a temple. What? That doesn't even make any sense. Why do those things go together? I do not know. People trying to make a buck.
So how long are you in Japan?
We were in Japan for a month. Or maybe 3 weeks. Oh. There were also times when there were a lot of really quirky things. But our cousin Tateharu-san, who's probably in his 70s, 80s, in the 70s, he took us on these outings, these cultural outings. And he took us to like a few ancient castles and temples and restaurants, and every touristy anything he would force us to do. And I mean, my Japanese was decent enough to like hold a conversation, a basic conversation. And I would try to be really polite and be like, "Oh, that's very sweet of you, but you know, we don't really want to wear these huge masks and hold these swords in the middle of a tourist square." And he'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then he'd sneakily go and pay for it and then demand that we go and do it. So we'd have to stand there and take pictures with... It's something that you would probably really enjoy. It's terrible that I'm hating on it. But there were also really sweet moments, like all the family coming together, and we'd sit around with an English-Japanese translation machine. And we'd just like work so hard just to get a few sentences across to each other. And it was just really, really sweet how they just took us in just because we're family.
Yeah.
And just completely open arms. Like, what's mine is yours. I'm going to spoil you, stupid. I'm going to wash your underwear and then fold it. No one's ever folded my underwear. You don't even know me. That's really nice. Yeah.
So, where do you go from Japan?
From Japan, we go to Thailand. Okay, so...
You fly there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gina, I had been emailing Gina and sending her a few pictures, and we had a blog. And...
Is it still up?
I think so.
Do you want to throw out the website?
Oh, I don't remember what it's called. I think it's yonali.blogspot.com.
Yonali? Like YONALI?
Yeah.
.blogspot.com?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Okay, we'll see.
And Gina had been hearing about how much fun me and Yoshi were having. And so she dropped out of college and came to join us in Thailand and then traveled the next 8 months with us. Her dad wasn't too happy in the beginning, but I think now he's okay because she graduated college. She went home and finished. And yeah, so got to Thailand. And so Japan was like a touristy family month. And then we got to Thailand. And we were like, let's volunteer and do something. So we would just go to an internet cafe and Google like volunteering in Thailand, and it was that broad of a search, and we were happy to go anywhere and do anything.
Were you guys trying to earn money at all, or just working off what you'd banked?
No, we were just working with what we'd made, but if we had found a job that would pay, that would be phenomenal, but there was just no way that was happening. Like, we had no credentials. I was 18.
Right.
I had a guitar, and that was it. And
you could have made money that way.
I could have. But instead I just volunteered.
Yeah.
With my guitar, which was just as wonderful. But we found this little town called Tai Muang, and they had a program where you could come and volunteer and teach in different schools around town. And they had this little house that you could stay at, and you had to pay to be a part of this volunteering program. And now I'm looking back and being like, it's a bit backwards to pay for volunteering. So
right, but you did
the
have a
things
place
you
to
learn.
Stay. So did all three of you stay in that little house?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was kind of my first introduction to teaching, which is funny because now I'm teaching, and at the time I was like, I'm never going to be a teacher. But we would... So Gina and I were teaching at this elementary school where all the babykins were so cute.
Babykins?
Yeah, they were like really young students.
Is that what they called them?
No, that's what I call them.
Oh, I
little
see.
Babykins. And we would... Oh, they were so sweet. We would go in and all the teachers would bring us like gifts every day.
What were you teaching?
English.
Oh, it makes sense.
The only thing that we possibly could have taught. We taught English. But it was the basics. Like,
right.
we would... But it's crazy because Gina and I would stay up for hours at night making lesson plans for how to best teach the alphabet.
Yeah.
What? Like, there should never be that much energy put into teaching the alphabet. But we stayed up for hours, like, drawing pictures of all the things that start with A. Oh my gosh. But it was really goofy at times because there'd be disciplinary issues, but considering that we didn't know Thai, we did take Thai lessons and were able by the end of it to communicate, which was awesome. But I would like turn my back for a second at the front of the class and write something on the board, and I'd turn back around and there'd be 3 kids crying. And I'd be like, I have no idea what happened. And then a little boy or girl would run up to me and try to tell me everything that's going on and explain who did what to who and who's wrong. And I would just have to, smile and be like, I'm really sorry. I don't know what you're saying. And I'd give them all hugs and we'd try to continue on. But, yeah, so we taught English. And then my uncle was in Thailand. My uncle loves Thailand and would spend half the year in Thailand. So then we had a little bit of vacationing time with him. And partied.
Okay, most memorable thing in Thailand.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's
You're
so
stalling
hard.
out on me, Denali.
I know.
How long were you there?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
5 weeks?
5 weeks.
No, 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
I think.
Did you get to go to Bangkok?
Oh yeah, that city is a trip. Like oh my gosh, riding tuk-tuks around that city and seeing what goes on at night in those
Is it as
in those clubs?
like
it makes
notorious
me go,
as people say?
blech.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, to each their own. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
I was really happy to be out of the city.
It's definitely a big city of vice.
Yeah.
So where do you go from Thailand?
From Thailand, we went to Vietnam. And I think originally we had a plane to go to Vietnam, and then we were like, this is a lot cheaper if we take a train.
Because is it close? Is it border?
Yeah.
I'm not geographically inclined. Okay.
Yeah. And we got to Vietnam, went to an internet cafe, Googled volunteering in Vietnam. And we found this bizarre English teaching gig again at this cafe in Ho Chi Minh City, where they wanted the staff to be able to communicate with the tourist customers. So we would go in and we would just like review the menu, and we'd talk about what things were on the menu, and that would lead to discussions and conversations. And then at night, Gina and I would go to this dance club across from the hostel we were staying at, and we made friends with these really sweet bartenders that would give us Vietnamese lessons, but it was a joke because
it's such a difficult language.
Everything we said, they would just laugh and be like, that was a really nice try. It never got to the point where they were like, oh wow, you just said that.
Yeah. I grew up with a bunch of Vietnamese kids, and the language to me was impossible to make any progress in understanding.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. So then, at this time, Yoshi had decided that he was going to go work at this animal sanctuary. You know, do something different from what me and Gina were doing. This is, I'm jumping ahead and I'm already going to tell you my most memorable moment in Vietnam. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please. You got a lot of countries to get
through. So there's this park, a few blocks from our hostel. Gina and I would walk around it at night, and we just kind of met some people sitting there talking. And this woman, this woman and her son were sitting on this bench with Gina, and she found out that we're teaching English. She doesn't really speak much English. And she was like, will you tutor my son? And Gina was like, totally, why not? The son was not interested at all, but the mom was really excited, naturally. And she was like, okay, I'm going to have you all over for dinner tomorrow. And we had just met her. We were like, okay, that's really sweet. And it kind of snowballed into her inviting us and like 7 other people over. There were these Vietnamese college students that we'd also met in the park, and they had kind of become translators for us to this woman. And she had us all over for dinner. She made this massive feast, and we sat on the floor of her living room and all had this feast together. And then a few days later was my birthday, and these college kids had found out, and they threw me a huge birthday party in the park. Like, they brought their guitars and we all played music. They brought cakes. It was outrageous. Like, we had just met them. We really didn't have any history. It was just a few days. They were like, oh, it's this girl's birthday. Everyone come to the park at this time on her birthday. We're all having a party. And,
So did you end up tutoring the boy?
Not really. We would meet in the park sometimes. But he was really not interested.
Yeah.
I honestly think it was more the mom who wanted to learn, but she was trying to force it on her kid, but it just wasn't happening. Then we traveled up north, stayed in some small beach towns. That was the only time I ever wrote a message in a bottle and sent it out to sea, but I felt like a jerk because Gina and I wrote this note, sealed it up in a bottle, and I walked down to the waves and threw it in the ocean, and I was like, I'm just littering right now. That's not going to get
But it's
anywhere.
imaginative littering. It's littering with a beautiful purpose.
Does that make it okay?
It probably cancels out.
Okay.
So how long are you in Vietnam?
I think we were in Vietnam for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
So this...
I saw a Vietnamese water puppetry show. So crazy. There are these people standing up to their knees in... Uh-oh, I have the hiccups.
That's fine.
In water, and they have these puppets that are at the ends of these really long rods, and they have them go in and out of the water.
So are they fish?
The puppets?
Yes.
No,
I mean, obviously the people weren't fish.
Some of them are...
Were the puppeteers fish?
No. Some of them were water creatures, and some of them were, little people riding the water creatures.
Oh, wow.
It was so great. Did I ever tell you I took a world puppetry class in college?
No.
I took some of the silliest, easiest classes in college.
Did your world puppetry knowledge come in handy watching this water puppetry?
Well, they happened
Were you
in opposite
explaining
order.
to the other audience members what was happening?
No, but having seen the water puppetry show then helped me later in my puppetry class, I suppose.
Oh, your puppetry class came later.
Yeah, because I hadn't gone to college.
That's
yet.
true. This was gap year. Okay.
Yeah. This microphone's really close to me. Is it picking up on you?
I'm sure it is. I mean, yeah, I can see the levels. We're good.
Okay.
Plus, you're the one doing 90% of the talking.
Yeah.
You're the one that's been to 25 countries. So, what happens after Vietnam?
After Vietnam, we go to Laos.
Lao?
Laos, Laos.
Oh, Laos over here.
Laos. We were only there for 5 days, and we only did touristy things. But we were there for Christmas Eve and Christmas, and we.
Do they celebrate those there?
Well, we were just surrounded by tourists, but we were floating down this river, Long Prabang, and everyone was wearing Santa hats and on some sort of drug.
Nice. What were you on?
I was just high on life, Eric. But yeah, you just get an inner tube and you float down the river, and there's these bars all up and down this river, and people will just throw a rope out to you. Yeah. And if you want to go to the bar, then you'll like, yeah, pull me in, and go hang out and dance for a little while. And there were huge slides and swings, and oh, it was a dream. It was the most bizarre world to be in. And you do that the entire day. And then you come home where every restaurant is playing Friends, like the TV show Friends, and all of the dining options are lying down or lounging with a little table a foot off the ground to eat
That
your
sounds
dinner.
amazing. I mean, not so much the Friends, but lying down to eat.
What? I love Friends. We can get into this another time.
Okay.
I do love Friends.
Please.
But
another time.
But it is kind of sad. We really missed out on like going and exploring caves and the like
in
open,
Laos.
untouched land. Yeah.
I know almost nothing about that country other than it's always brought up in conjunction with Tibet.
I know almost nothing about that country as well.
Laos?
Mm-hmm.
You
even
know,
though I
5
have
days
been
worth
there.
of touristy things.
Yeah. Which isn't even knowing it.
Now, is it next to
But
Tibet?
we just went there.
Somehow?
No.
Did I just make that
No,
up?
they're pretty far apart.
Okay, again, geographically not inclined.
But we were just going through there to get... Where were we? To get to Cambodia?
Maybe that's what I was thinking.
Cambodia, Tibet.
I have no idea.
Yeah, and then we were only in Cambodia for like a week.
Now, that's a dangerous place, right? Civil war and whatnot?
Yeah, there's still a lot of landmines that are just out and about, but we didn't like go off the beaten path, even though we should have. There's a lot of things I would have done differently, but you know, now I know for next time.
So what did you do in Cambodia?
We we went and visited like mass grave sites for the Khmer Rouge, and we read a lot of books because I told you earlier there's in Thailand and Cambodia and Vietnam, there's a lot of people on the streets selling photocopied versions of American novels or English novels.
Yeah, I found that fascinating.
Yeah, so you can buy them for a few dollars and you can exchange them sometimes if the person carrying them like a 50 book stack.
Are they paperback?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're literally just photocopied pieces of paper.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, and they've bound them all together and they have, photocopied covers as well. And it's really funny because sometimes the pages will be messed up and there will be like a few pages upside down or like a few repeated pages. Or just a chapter or two missing. And you're like, well, I got what I paid for.
Yeah.
Accurate. Yeah, we did a lot of reading and lounging. So that was more just a transit country.
Mm-hmm. How long were you there?
I think 5 or 6 days. Maybe a week.
Then where did you go?
Then we might have gone back to Thailand for a second to fly to Nepal. I don't remember how we got to Nepal, but Nepal was this was the only part of our trip that we had planned before we left, and we had set up with this Tibetan Buddhist monastery and nunnery to go work and teach English, classic, for a month. So Gina and I stayed with the nunnery, with the nuns at the nunnery, and Yoshi stayed up at the top of the hill with the monks. It's called Kopan Monastery and Kacho Gakil Nunnery. And we knew about them because when I was 9 or 10, next door in San Anselmo, our neighbors Jack and Judith are very tied into the Tibetan Buddhist community around the world. And when the Kacho Gakil nuns were coming to America to go on this tour to play music and to raise money and awareness of what they were doing in Nepal, they stayed next door at Jack and Judith's house. So me being so young, I would just go over and hang out with all of them. And I thought they were the most wonderful, wonderful group of people. And at that age, I was like, Mom, I'm gonna be a nun. She was like, okay, cool. But that has yet to happen. Perhaps that's another chapter later in life. But
now, the Tibetan Buddhist nuns and monks, are they celibate and...
Mm-hmm. I like that's the first criteria question you asked.
I'm trying to ask if nuns and monks is sort of... if that connotes that lifestyle, sort of a sequestered celibate lifestyle. Of course, that would be the first place my mind goes.
Well, yeah, but the way that I was viewing them when I was 9 and 10 was I would hang out with them and we would do such, like, quote unquote normal activities. Like I played board games and we jump roped and we talked about shoes and we sang songs.
Now, were they allowed to dress in contemporary clothing?
No, they were all in robes.
Okay.
They're all in robes and they have shaved heads. and they all eat what is offered to them and they're all vegetarian and and I don't know, they were just the happiest, most wonderful people, and I didn't really think anything past that, and I was like, that's what I want. Look at them.
Now, did you talk about Buddhism at all, or was that...
With them?
Yeah.
I don't remember talking about Buddhism. No, which is funny, because that would be one of the main things that we should talk... I'm sure they asked me a whole bunch of questions, and I probably had some really funny answers for all of them, but... But yeah, so that's how we knew them, and...
Now, when you went to the nunnery yourself, did you meet up with anybody you had previously met?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So many years later, do they remember you?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And especially because there's pictures of them around Jack and Judith's house, so, their faces haven't left my mind.
And so you recognize them, they recognize you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have felt nice.
Oh yeah, it was wild. It was wild. Especially because now we were on the other side of the world, and I was in, like, their world for a little bit.
You guys talk about shoes again?
No. No, we talked about a lot of things, so we were there for a while.
While Yoshi was at the top of the hill doing kung fu?
No, he was teaching... He was doing the same thing, just teaching English to the monks, and it was very free-form. We could teach, whatever we wanted in whatever style we wanted. So Gina and I taught lyrics of songs because I had my guitar. And the main hit of the month was Cat Stevens' If You Want to Sing Out, Sing Out.
From Harold and Maude.
Yeah! And so we would write those lyrics on the board and we would have them all write it down and we'd talk about what each line meant. And...
I think this is a good time for a break. Do you still remember the song? Do you remember how to play it?
I don't remember the chords, but I can look it up on my phone. Do you want me to play it?
I'd love that.
Okay.
She's getting out her brand new, big, beautiful guitar.
This is very funny, this format of you interviewing me. Like
I love this.
I know. I love it too. It's just quite funny. Okay. If you
I'll take this opportunity to do a commercial. If you like this podcast, please go to my website. We have an Amazon banner on the left side of either of my websites, one being thepostapoc.com, as THEPOSTAPOC.com, the Postapoc. My other website is ericwrites.com, ERICWRITES, ericwrites.com, because I do. Go to either of my websites, click on the Amazon banner. Do your shopping at Amazon as normal. I've come to do all my grocery shopping at Amazon. But if you click through my banner, it doesn't cost you any more, but I get a little kickback. Amazon gives me 6% of whatever you spend, and that goes toward whatever the hell I want to spend it on.
How about I'll just do a verse?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, if you wanna sing out, sing out. And if you wanna be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million ways ways to be. You know that there are. You know that there are. And if you wanna live high, live high. And if you wanna live low, live low. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. You know that there are. You know that there are. Boom, 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 boom.
Was that a verse?
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Beautiful. I could listen to the whole song.
You have such a radio voice.
I just have this voice.
It's a good one.
Okay, so you taught that song to the nuns.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Keep that guitar handy.
Oh, it's really a shame. I wrote so many songs on this gap year, and I don't remember any of them. Gina remembers all of them, like the words and melodies, but I don't remember how to play them on the guitar. There was... it'd be so perfect. I remember how to play it. But it was Mother's Day when we were at the nunnery, and so for Mother's Day I recorded my mom a song and a video that I'd written for her. And I really wish that I could bust it out right now and play it for you. I don't know. Oh, I can't. It's on YouTube if you want to sing it though.
Yeah.
Little 18-year-old Denali.
Let's look up the video at the end of this.
Okay.
So what did how long were you in Nepal?
A month.
1 month.
Yeah.
Where do you go after that?
Then after that we go to India.
Uh-huh.
Which is the bordering country just south of Nepal, and we went to a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Dharamsala, which is in northern India, where the Dalai Lama has his temple, and...
Was he there?
He was!
Did you get to meet him?
I didn't meet him, but I went to one of his teachings.
Uh-huh.
Which...
Now, was it in...
Was not in English.
Okay. So
I fell asleep for a little bit of it. Okay. But yeah, we went into that afterwards. But during the 10 days, we were up in the mountains at this meditation center where you don't talk. You are silent. You eat your meals in silence, and you do walking meditation in silence, and you sit in the meditation room in silence. And there were a few hours where we were able to talk. We would have like a discussion group, and then there were times where I broke the vow of silence because we each had our chores, and so we'd be doing our chores to keep the meditation center running. And there was this woman sweeping, and she showed me this like little black curled up ball of something on the ground, and she was just pointing at it. And I was like, that's a black thing on the ground. You know, that's not very exciting. And she went on sweeping, and then I looked down closer at it, and it was a scorpion that had just, like, you know, collected all this dust on it, and she went down to pick it all up with her hands, and I just yelled scorpion at her. So I have that guilty...
Ooh, did she...
guilty vow break.
Snap her fingers at you?
No, she said thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a really great way to start off India, because India was...
Now, were there a lot of other international travelers at this retreat, or was it primarily Indian people?
No, it was all travelers.
Okay.
And there were these... So we were divided into men and women, and then within those groups we were... For sleeping. Mm-hmm. And then within those groups it was the snorers and the non-snorers.
Oh.
And Yoshi was in the male snorer cabin.
Yoshi snores.
Yeah. Let it be known.
He's outed.
And the guys that were staying in his cabin would just go back to the room and just talk. And talk and discuss everything that had gone on in class and how they're feeling. Because it was these two guys who were traveling the world looking for enlightenment. And so they were going to all these countries, trying all these drugs, being parts of all these religious rituals, getting integrated into these different cultures around the world to be like, how do we find enlightenment? And so...
Do you remember their names?
No. Yoshi probably would.
Interesting. I need to interview them.
Yeah. That'll be far more entertaining than this. This is just pitter-patter. Yeah, I don't remember. What was the question?
Oh, nothing. You were just telling me about the retreat. So what happens after that?
Then after that... You're so good at this.
I'm just trying to keep you on track.
And after that, what happens after that? Then after that, we went down to New Delhi and stayed with our friend Elise, who we'd made friends with her at the retreat.
And she was Indian or?
No, she was from the States.
Okay, she lived?
But she was living.
Okay.
She was living in India. And from there, we just went on like little jaunts.
Where's Elise from in the States? Do you know?
I don't remember. Sorry, Elise. Went on jaunts, including Manali, which is a city we knew nothing about, but it rhymed with Denali, so we got on a bus and we went, and we got there, and we were like, all right, we're going to be here for a few days. We got to find out what there is to do in this city. So we're kind of in the mountains, not too many people around, and we were told that there's great rock climbing. And Yoshi loves rock climbing. Gina and I like being outdoors. We're like, yeah, we'll go with you when you're rock climbing. So we sign up. It's $10 a person. We're like, what a deal. The next day, this guy comes and picks us up, and we go out, and he has a rope. And that's kind of it. and he throws this rope up on this boulder and hooks it around this tree that's at the top so that the other end of the rope comes down and ties it around Yoshi's waist. And it's like, okay, ready, set, go. and Yoshi's like, I'm wearing like pretty bad shoes for rock climbing. These are the shoes I've been traveling in. Like, do you have a harness or shoes or carabiners or anything? And he was like, no, it's very easy. I'll show you. And so he just kind of scurries up the boulder on his own, but he has shoes, and this is his boulder. So that was very laughable, and nothing really came of that. And then Yosh was like, Denali, you should try. So I give it a go, get 5 feet off the ground, and then fall and get my ribs crushed by this rope that's just tied around your waist. No harness. So that was the highlight of Manali, aside from me being probably the sickest I'd been at all the time in India. It's
something you hear from everyone who travels to India, is you just expect to get sick.
Oh, yeah.
And none of the other countries you got sick.
Oh, I got sick in every country.
Oh, really?
I went to the hospital in nearly every country.
You went to the hospital in nearly every country?
Yeah. I was just...
Always stomach problems?
Always intestinal problems, or I needed an x-ray, or just...
So world traveling is being sick.
For me, it was. For Yoshi, he was able to eat everything. Like, everyone's like, don't eat the food off the street. Always make sure that you purify your water. And Yosh would just eat anything and everything. Like, he ate a fried tarantula off the street in Cambodia. He ate smoothies made from, the street water in India. And here I am eating pita bread and peanut butter and doing everything I can not to get sick, and I'm sick 24/7. But aside from that, but it's great because I look back and those aren't the real moments that stand out.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so we went to Manali and we went to Calcutta because we wanted to volunteer at Mother Teresa's homes for destitute and dying.
Uh-huh.
Gina and I worked in the women's section. Yoshi worked in the men's, and language barrier again, but just the fact that you're there, out of just the pure wanting to be there, is like a language enough. And I would just carry really old women from one room to another. Like women so frail, it really didn't take much strength to lift them. And then we'd feed them and help clean them, and yeah, and then call it a day, go home, and repeat in the morning. And we went to... Where else did we go? Oh, we went to Varanasi.
Which is the city of the dead? Something like that?
Yeah, there's burning ghats all up and down the Ganges River, which they call the Ganga. And since it's snowmelt from the Himalayan mountains, it's supposed to be sacred. And so all these people are in the river bathing with this water and swallowing it and ingesting it. But the reality is there's also periods of the day where people are power hosing all of the garbage and the excrement off of the sidewalk into that river. So it's a very polluted river. But yeah, so we went there and taught. This was, again, just volunteering in India at an internet cafe, and we came up with this street school where I taught music and English, and Gina taught English, and Yoshi taught math, which really didn't go well because, bless his heart, he was downstairs with this group of students trying to teach them math, and I was upstairs playing guitar with all these kids, and so all the kids downstairs were like, why are we learning about numbers when I could be upstairs singing songs?
Oh.
So I think that was kind of hard for him. Very understandable. But yeah, the men, these two brothers who started it, Somit and Amit, they just started the school because they just were like, there's a need for this. We can do it. We can provide it. And they just go around and they sometimes have to convince families to let their kids come to school because, you know, their kids could be working somewhere else. And,
right.
Yeah, so it was really nice to work with them. And we helped them set up a blog for their school, which they still use, which is really fun to see. And there's...
Do you remember the URL?
volunteervaranasi.blogspot.com.
Volunteervaranasi.blogspot.com. Okay.
I think that's it, but I could be wrong.
Well, do you think they could Google Volunteer Varanasi?
Possibly? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it's the first thing that would come up.
And what are their names again?
Somit and Amit.
All right. So let's go check out that website. See if you can find it. Tell those guys Denali says hey.
Yeah.
Okay, there are two stories I want you to tell again. Now, you've told me both of these stories at different times, but I was fascinated by both of them. The story about the little boy who you bought food from the street vendor for, and then the story about the woman who ganked your bananas.
Those are both in Varanasi.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so there's so many people on the streets begging for money and food and anything that you can give them, they will take. So my deal is I don't really like, and Yoshi and I both, we don't really like to give them money where we'd rather give them food. So we, there was this 5-year-old, he was probably 5 or 6, 5-year-old boy, you know, holding on to Yoshi's shorts, being like, please, sir, please, I'm really hungry, please. And he followed us a long time. And Yoshi was finally like, yeah, okay. You know, you had some persistence. I'll get you some food. So, we go up to the street vendor and Yoshi buys him some food. I think it was like a little pastry or something for a few rupees, and we walk away, you know, kind of feeling like we did our good deed for this hour. And we get down to the end of the block and turn around, and this boy is giving the food back to the street food vendor, and getting the money that Yoshi had paid.
That's probably a regular racket.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sure. But it was so brilliant. Like, you know, you kind of got to give him some credit for that. Like,
I'd have to give him a thumbs
little
up.
Boy. Yeah.
Smart.
And then, then the bananas were, I was taking sitar lessons, and I had this really long walk by myself, like to and from sitar lessons. So I would just buy a huge bunch of bananas, and I would just, you know, give people bananas when they were on the streets asking for food or money. So this girl walks up to me, and I was going to offer her a banana because that was just, you know, what I did. And instead, she stole a bunch of bananas from me and ran away. And I, like, turned the corner and see her with a whole bunch of other kids. You know, now she's got, like, a baby on her hip. She's just with a whole bunch of kids giving all the bananas out, like, I got you. And I just wanted to be like, girl, I was going to give these to you, but now you've turned it into something so nasty. I also almost lost my life on that walk home because there were these water buffalo coming through the alleyways, and like all the alleyways in Varanasi are very narrow, and water buffalo have horns that are very wide. And I'm walking along, it's just me, myself, and I, and all of a sudden this water buffalo turns the corner and is walking towards me, followed by a herd of water buffalo, and there's like no herder or other humans in sight. And his horns are basically as wide as the alleyway. And I make eye contact with it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna turn around and start walking the other way. But it starts charging at me, and I was like, that's not gonna happen. And I kind of black out this moment out of sheer terror, but I kind of Spider-Man'd myself up on this wall and just gripped onto these bricks and sucked it in. And this huge herd of water buffalo went running past me, and eventually, like, the herder came and, you know, was hitting their butts with a long stick and was probably just like, what is that crazy girl doing hanging on to the wall?
That is terrifying. So how high up off the ground did you have to get? Or were you just up against the wall?
No, I was just straight up against the wall.
And so they were literally inches behind you.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. They're huge. They're so big. But then they seem so cute and playful when they go down to the water and they're being bathed. They seem like they're just going for a little bath, like a little baby.
Okay, we have hit the 1 hour and 7 minute mark.
Oh my goodness.
So I say we break part 1 in India.
Break.
And we will pick up part 2 after India.
Oh my gosh, this is going to take a while, huh?
Yeah, we have 25 countries to get through. We may be 3 parts into this. I'll keep it rolling. I would really like to end part 1 with another song. Do you have anything you want to play? Maybe something that has to do with India. Is there a song you remember from India?
It would be so perfect if I remembered this song. Okay, I'm just going to make it up as we go along because I can't remember it for the life of me. I remember the words, but... Okay, this was the song I wrote. Oh my gosh, I think I did it backwards. I think we went to India first.
Before what?
Before Nepal. Anyway. Okay. I won't play it. Can I just sing it?
You can sing it.
Okay. This was the song I wrote for my mom. Hey mama, I missed you the same way that the sun must miss the moon. Spending day and night on the other side of the world took some getting used to. I was looking up as the leaves were falling down to the ground beneath the Bodhi tree. India's heat was burning through my feet, but my soul was comforted having you there with me. Not in the form of your body, not in your voice on the other end of the phone, but in your essence that's embedded so deeply in my bones. Your blood's pumping my heart so I can never feel alone. Ta-da!
That was beautiful. End of part.